Good evening, everyone. As I was sitting in your shoes just a few short years ago, I never imagined that I would be up here as the guest speaker at this event. After a decent amount of my basketball games in high school, Mike Boydum liked to track me down for a comment and quote about the game so he could write a nice story for the paper. Most games I willingly spoke to him, but there were definitely a few times where I tried to sneak out the back and leave without any conversations because I was just disappointed in the way I played. No offense, Mike. Here we are 5 years later, and Mike Boydum is still tracking me down, asking for a comment, or in this case, an entire speech. He actually asked me to be last year's guest speaker, and I politely declined. One, because I was terrified at the thought of giving a public speech, and two, I thought to myself, what would I even speak about? I'm not a professional, and my speech wouldn't even be that interesting. Well, here we are a year later, and I did not sneak out the back door to avoid this speech. I'm facing my public speaking fears. First, I'd like to give the biggest shout out to the Altoona Mirror, especially Neil Rudell, Mike Boydum, and Buck Frank. Thank you for having us here tonight, and thank you for everything you do. They have done and will continue to do an absolutely fantastic job at covering high school sports in this area. I don't think we realize how truly lucky we are to have a newspaper like the Mirror. They care about high school sports, especially girls' sports, and they put the time in to highlight and showcase all of the talent we have in this area. So let's give a round of applause to the Altoona Mirror. Bellwood-Antis High School from 2016 to 2020. I stepped onto the scene as a young freshman and I made an impact right away by entering the starting lineup. I was lucky enough to join a team that already made its presence known in the state and had some very talented players. And I was excited to help the team take that next step in the state tournament. We ended up making it to the state semifinals that year after a heartbreaking loss to Bishop McCourt. We used that loss as motivation to work even harder that offseason. We ended up winning back-to-back state titles my sophomore and junior years, and it was such an exciting and rewarding time getting to experience the win with my family, friends, teammates, coaches, and the entire Bellwood community. They were amazing during both of our runs and supported us every step of the way. Entering my senior year of high school, I only had one goal, and that was to end my high school career with a three-peat and on top. We had put ourselves in a position to do that when we made it to the state quarterfinals, and we're 2 games away from heading back to Hershey. But that week also happened to be the week that COVID-19 made its presence known, and just like that, my high school basketball career was over due to the cancellation of the rest of the state tournament, and honestly the whole world shutting down as well. I was also selected to compete in the Jordan Brand Classic All-American game and the Altoona Mirror Classic, which were both canceled as well. In that moment, devastation wasn't even the word to describe it. And this was definitely the worst thing that ever happened to me in my young basketball career. Boy, I had no idea what I would face in the next few years to come. I was foolish to think that this would be the worst and most challenging thing to happen to me in my basketball journey. My college journey has been one that I never planned for and honestly didn't hope for. I started my career at Notre Dame when I committed to Coach Muffet McGraw in 2018 as a junior. I fell in love with the university and I was so excited to play for Coach McGraw. She retired in 2020, however, right before I got to campus. I still wanted to give it a shot there though. Unfortunately, it wasn't the best fit for me anymore, as my position coach who recruited me wasn't there either, and I knew I needed a fresh start somewhere else. I might have the record for the fastest player in and out of the transfer portal because I committed to Penn State almost immediately and knew I wanted to go there right away. Coming home to play in this state was so exciting, and I honestly got chills when I first stepped back onto Penn State's campus as a player. I had season tickets as a 5th and 6th grader to watch the Lady Lions play hoops, and that's when I first started dreaming and aspiring to play at the next level. I wanted to come in and make an impact right away, help turn the program around, and honestly get my basketball journey back on the right track. Unfortunately, 4 weeks into our summer training, in July of 2021, I tore my right ACL. I was completely devastated and lost, and I never had basketball completely taken away from me before. I would miss the entire 2021-22 season, which was my sophomore year. I had my surgery done in Indianapolis, and it was actually a pretty unique procedure, but I completely rehabbed in about 8 months and was fully cleared in April. My parents sacrificed so much for me during this time. I was on complete bed rest for the entire first week, and we made countless 7-hour one-way trips back and forth to Indy for checkups and appointments. They were there for me every step of the way. I had a great off-season and continued to get stronger both mentally and physically to gain that confidence back on the court and get back to being myself again. By the time the season rolled around in November, I was feeling close to myself, but I knew that it would take time and patience, which I didn't quite have. Game by game in our non-conference schedule, I was improving and gaining that experience, and I actually started in our second conference game of the year, and the 10th overall game of the season, which was against Indiana. With about a minute left in the game, however, I went down again. This time it was my left knee. In that moment, I knew something was wrong with it, of course, but I was just in disbelief that this was actually happening again. The MRI results confirmed another torn ACL in my other knee, and my injuries were only 17 months apart. I just remember saying over and over again that it wasn't fair and asking why me? What am I doing so wrong? The second time around, I knew what to expect, which was both a blessing and a curse. I knew how hard the journey would be, but I also knew what worked and how to push myself in ways that were both uncomfortable yet rewarding. This time, I recovered even quicker, and I was cleared on July 14th, 2023, which happened to be the very same day that I tore my first ACL 2 years prior. So it was a very neat full circle moment, and it was almost just a sign telling me that everything would be okay and work out in the end. Entering into the 2023-24 season, which would have been my true senior season, we had a pretty talented team. We were all fighting for playing time, and again, I was fighting to gain that confidence and experience back. It just felt like I had been completely off the grid for the last 3 years. I just wanted the next year to be the best year yet. Crazy of me to think that, because ironically enough, I broke my foot in the first game of that season. I managed to play 1 minute, and in that minute, I went 1 for 1 from 3, recorded an assist, a steal, and a fractured foot. That has got to be a record for the most jam-packed, action-filled, and productive minute in history. But again, I just felt like I had the worst luck in the world at this point. No matter how hard I worked and how strongly I recovered, I just could not stay fully healthy. Which is crazy coming from someone who was almost never injured at all throughout my high school career, besides a broken pinky that occurred 5 weeks before my high school senior basketball season from a charity dodgeball event and required surgery. Boy, my parents were not happy about that one. But anyways, the broken foot took about 5 weeks to heal, and I ended up finishing that season strong and graduating with a degree in communications. Still, I wanted more for myself, and I knew that I had more to give. I used my COVID year to play my 5th season of college basketball this past year. It was another season of ups and downs, but I started for the Lady Lions and was the captain of the team. We did not have the season we hoped for, which was very frustrating, of course, but one thing we did not do was quit, and I'm proud of that. This past year, I was also able to get my MBA, or Master of Business Administration degree. I'm leaving Penn State with 2 degrees, friends and teammates for life, and countless memories. This place will always be home. While my Penn State journey did not go as I planned, I learned so much about myself over the past few years that I'm so grateful for. For years, I had only identified myself as Alli Campbell, the basketball player, and I feel like I had defined my self-worth by how well I was performing on the court. That all changed when I tore my ACL for the first time and I had basketball taken away. Who was I off the court? I really didn't know right away. I never had any other hobbies or interests because I devoted so much of my time to basketball. To start, I learned that there is so much more to life than the game of basketball, which is eye-opening in and of itself. I learned that it is okay to accept help from others, even though I wanted to be very independent and do everything by myself. People want to help you, so let them help. I also learned the importance of surrounding yourself with good people and those that want to see you win just as much as you want to win yourself. Being around good people and enjoying good moments with them is genuinely what life is about. I learned the importance of being vocal and communicating from the sidelines. I could no longer lead by example as I've always done, so I had to make my voice heard and be there for my teammates in other ways. I learned that success doesn't just come from winning games. It comes from getting knocked down and continuing to get back up and fight over and over again. I learned how to become resilient through adversity while also giving back to those who gave so much to me. I learned humility because being great in one season doesn't guarantee anything in the next. I learned more about myself in moments of failure than I did in moments of success. Most importantly, I learned the power of purpose, how to find meaning beyond stats and wins, but rather by being a great teammate, a friend, and a leader. I found strength in supporting others even when I was hurting. If you can't clap for others, it'll never be your turn. Let me say that one more time. If you can't clap for others, it will never be your turn. So while I have not had the basketball career I've dreamed of yet, I've gained something much deeper, a new perspective on what it really means to grow, lead, and persevere. While it is the end of my Penn State journey, lucky enough for me, it is not the end of my college basketball journey. I'm using my redshirt year this season and heading to Fairfield University in Connecticut to play my 6th season of college basketball. Yes, my 6th. I know, I'm super old. But then again, I did have more than 2 seasons taken away from me due to injury, so I think this last year is a fair compromise and opportunity. If it weren't for my injuries, I wouldn't have this upcoming year playing college, and I truly believe it will be the year that I say, wow, it all makes sense now. That was so worth it. So as I wrap things up here tonight, I want to say congratulations to all the athletes and the families here in the crowd. Believe me, I know all about the hard work and sacrifices from each of you to be sitting here in this room tonight. Enjoy these moments now because they do not last forever. Don't wish time away, even the hard and challenging moments, because it goes by fast enough already. Thank your parents, spend more time with them, and tell them more often how grateful you are for them. Work hard for whatever your dreams are in life, whether that is finishing your high school career strong, continuing your playing career in college, working towards that college degree, or entering the workforce to make a positive impact in the world. Life is hard. Whether you plan for it or not, you will get knocked down. You will fail, and you will have to learn to navigate these hardships, oftentimes away from home and your family. To build resilience into our lives, we shouldn't fear adversity, because each setback is an opportunity for growth. You may think you have everything figured out and planned the way you want life to go, but that might not just go to plan. Stay true to yourself and adapt, but no matter what, don't give up on what you want. Thank you.